Captain HFY studied the holographic display with growing frustration. 3 years into the war against the human species, and they were no closer to victory. What should have been a simple conquest had turned into a nightmare of unexpected resistance and tactical surprises. "Status report," he growled to his intelligence officer, Lieutenant Vorth. "Sir, our advanced fleets continue to meet heavy resistance in the Outer Rim territories. The humans have developed new defensive strategies that our battle computers cannot predict or counter effectively." HFY's mandibles clicked in annoyance. The Confederation of Allied Worlds had expected humanity to surrender within months. Instead, these primitive bipeds had proven surprisingly resourceful, adapting their tactics faster than any species on record. What about their command structure? Have we identified their military leadership? Vorth's skin shifted to a pale blue, indicating uncertainty. "That's where things become unusual, sir. Our intelligence suggests their most effective strategic decisions are coming from someone within their Sol System defense network. However, we cannot determine who this person is. All we know is that humans refer to this individual as the Kid." "The Kid?" HFY's voice carried disbelief. "Yes, sir. Our intercepted communications consistently reference someone young, possibly an adolescent by their standards. Our analysts believe it's a code name, or perhaps a collective identity. No species would actually place a child in a position of military authority." Meanwhile, on Earth's primary orbital defense station, 16-year-old Maya Chen sat cross-legged on the floor of her cramped quarters, surrounded by floating holographic displays. Her fingers danced through the air, manipulating tactical data streams that would have overwhelmed seasoned military officers. She had never asked to become humanity's secret weapon. Maya had been a normal teenager attending the Lunar Academy for Advanced Sciences when the aliens first attacked. Her gift for pattern recognition and systems analysis had been discovered during the initial evacuation protocols, when she had quickly identified weaknesses in the enemy's formation that even the AI defense systems had missed. Admiral Harrison knocked on her door, entering when she gestured him in without looking away from her displays. "How are we looking for tomorrow's engagement at Proxima Station?" he asked quietly. Maya's eyes tracked across multiple data streams simultaneously. "They'll come from the asteroid field again. Same formation they've used 6 times before, but with a variation in their approach vector. They're learning, but slowly." She paused, highlighting several points on the tactical display. "If we position our cruiser squadron here and delay our fighter launch by 17 minutes, we can force them into a crossfire pattern they won't see coming." Harrison marveled at how easily she spoke of strategies that would determine the fate of thousands of lives. Maya had an uncanny ability to think several moves ahead of both human and alien commanders, seeing patterns in enemy behavior that escaped everyone else. "The Council is asking questions again," he said carefully. "They want to know who's really making these tactical decisions." Maya finally looked up from her displays, her dark eyes reflecting the weight of responsibility she carried. "Let them wonder. The moment they know it's a teenager calling the shots, they'll panic. Half of them will want to replace me with some general who went to the right military academy. The other half will try to turn me into a propaganda tool." She was right, and Harrison knew it. The political leaders of Earth's United Defense Coalition would never accept that their survival depended on a girl who wasn't even old enough to vote in most member nations. "The psychological evaluation reports came back," Harrison said. "Dr. Reeves is concerned about the stress levels you're showing. She recommends reduced responsibilities and mandatory rest periods." Maya laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Rest periods? Admiral, in the time it would take me to explain my tactical reasoning to someone else, 3 more colonies could fall. The aliens have one advantage we can't match: their technology is superior. But they're predictable. They think in patterns that made sense on their homeworld, fighting their own kind. They don't understand how humans adapt." She gestured to the largest display, showing the current disposition of both human and alien fleets across 12 star systems. "Every time they modify their tactics, they do it incrementally. Small adjustments based on immediate feedback. But they don't consider long-term consequences or unconventional responses. That's how we've held them off this long." Harrison studied the tactical overview, still amazed by the complexity of the multi-front war they were fighting. "And you can see all of this?" "The patterns, the predictions. It's like a game to me," Maya admitted. "A really complicated game where the pieces keep moving and the rules change, but there are still underlying patterns." The aliens are good at individual tactics, but they're terrible at strategic improvisation. They commit to a plan and stick with it even when it's clearly not working. As if to prove her point, an urgent communication alert chimed through the station. Commander Torres appeared on the main screen, his face grim. Admiral, we're receiving reports of a massive alien buildup in the Centauri system. Fleet intelligence estimates it's their largest offensive force yet assembled. They're moving toward our main supply depot at New Geneva. Maya was already analyzing the incoming data before Torres finished speaking. Her fingers flew through holographic controls, pulling up supply routes, defensive positions, and enemy movement patterns. They think they've found our weakness, she murmured. Take out our primary supply hub and force us to retreat to defensive positions around Earth. She paused, a slight smile crossing her face. But they're making the same mistake they always make. Which is? Harrison asked. They're assuming we'll respond the way they would respond. Defend our assets, fall back, consolidate our forces. Maya's smile grew wider. They have no idea what humans do when we're desperate. Admiral Harrison felt a familiar mixture of awe and concern as he watched the teenager manipulate tactical data with practiced ease. Maya Chen might look like any other student from the Lunar Academy, but she possessed a strategic mind that had repeatedly outmaneuvered an enemy with centuries more military experience. The question that kept him awake at night was simple. How long could one brilliant teenager carry the weight of humanity's survival on her shoulders? As Maya continued her analysis of the alien offensive buildup, Harrison realized that the enemy's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating human technology or determination. Their fatal error was assuming that age and experience always trumped innovation and intuition. They saw only a teen. But Maya Chen was about to prove that sometimes being underestimated was the greatest weapon of all. Maya stood before the massive holographic display in Earth's primary command center, her small frame dwarfed by the three-dimensional representation of the Centauri system. The assembled fleet commanders watched nervously as she manipulated the tactical data, their decorated uniforms a stark contrast to her simple academy jumpsuit. The alien force is approximately 4 times larger than anything we've faced before, Admiral Harrison announced to the room. Our intelligence suggests they're planning to eliminate our supply depot at New Geneva, then push directly toward Earth's outer defenses. General Morrison, a veteran of Earth's colonial wars, leaned forward. Our only logical option is to evacuate New Geneva and concentrate our forces at the Luna defensive line. We cannot match their firepower in open battle. Maya continued studying the data streams, her fingers tracing patterns only she could see. The other commanders exchanged glances, unaware that the teenager absorbed in her work was the architect of every major victory they'd achieved. General Morrison is correct by conventional standards, Admiral Harrison said carefully. However, our strategic advisor has an alternative proposal. Maya finally looked up, her gaze sweeping across the assembled officers. The aliens are expecting us to retreat. Their entire battle plan depends on it. They've positioned their reserve forces to intercept any withdrawal toward Earth, and their main assault group is configured for siege warfare against fixed installations. Commander Wright from the 3rd Fleet frowned. You're suggesting we attack? That would be suicide. Our combined forces are outnumbered 4-1. Not attack, Maya replied, manipulating the display to show the enemy formation. Redirect. The hologram shifted, revealing Maya's tactical analysis. Red markers indicated alien positions, while blue showed current human fleet deployments. Yellow lines began tracing through space, showing proposed movement patterns that defied conventional military wisdom. The aliens have made 2 critical assumptions, Maya explained. First, that we value New Geneva more than we actually do. Second, that we'll fight to defend it. She highlighted several positions on the display. But what if we don't? General Morrison's face darkened. That facility represents 6 months of supply reserves and houses over 50,000 civilians. We cannot simply abandon it. Maya's expression remained calm. We're not abandoning it. We're using it as bait. The room erupted in protests, but Admiral Harrison raised his hand for silence. He had learned to trust Maya's unconventional thinking, even when it seemed impossible. Explain your proposal, he said. Maya expanded the tactical display, showing movement patterns extending across multiple star systems. The aliens have committed their largest force ever to this offensive. Their supply lines are stretched across 3 systems and their command structure is rigid. They cannot adapt quickly to unexpected changes. She gestured to the enemy formation. They're planning a systematic siege of New Geneva, followed by a methodical advance toward Earth. But their fleet configuration is optimized for that specific strategy. If we change the nature of the engagement, their technological advantages become weaknesses. Commander Torres studied the proposed fleet movements with growing amazement. You want to evacuate New Geneva secretly, then allow their advance force to capture an empty facility? While their main fleet is committed to besieging New Geneva, we hit their supply convoys here, here, and here, Maya continued, highlighting targets throughout the alien logistics network. Simultaneous strikes across multiple systems, using small, fast attack groups instead of traditional battle formations. The brilliance of the strategy began to dawn on the assembled commanders. Instead of fighting the aliens' strength, Maya proposed attacking their weakness, their dependence on predictable supply chains and rigid command structures. By the time they realize New Geneva is a trap, their forces will be scattered across multiple systems, dealing with supply crises and unexpected attacks, Maya explained. Their technological superiority doesn't help them if they can't coordinate effectively. General Morrison shook his head. This is incredibly risky. We'd be gambling everything on the assumption that they won't adapt quickly enough. Maya pulled up historical battle data, showing patterns of alien responses to previous engagements. They've had 3 years to adapt to our tactics, General. Every time, they make incremental adjustments based on immediate feedback. They don't consider radical strategic shifts because that's not how their military culture works. Admiral Harrison studied the tactical projections, running scenarios through the command center's advanced AI systems. The probability calculations were staggering. Maya's plan had a 67% chance of success, compared to less than 12% for conventional defensive strategies. The civilian evacuation would have to be completed in absolute secrecy, Commander Wright observed. One intelligence leak and the entire operation fails. Already handled, Maya replied, calling up evacuation schedules. We've been quietly rotating personnel out of New Geneva for the past 2 weeks under the guise of routine maintenance cycles. The facility will appear fully operational until the moment we want it to appear otherwise. The room fell silent as the commanders absorbed the implications. Maya had been planning this strategy for weeks, anticipating the alien offensive before their own intelligence networks had confirmed it. There's something else, Maya said quietly. This operation won't just save New Geneva and disrupt their advance. It will force them to reconsider their entire approach to fighting humans. Right now they think they understand us. After this, they'll realize they don't understand us at all. General Morrison remained skeptical. You're asking us to trust the survival of human civilization to an untested strategy devised by... He paused, suddenly realizing he didn't actually know who their mysterious strategic advisor was. Admiral Harrison intervened smoothly. Our strategic assessment team has consistently demonstrated superior tactical analysis. I recommend we proceed with the operation. Maya felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. These experienced military officers were debating the fate of millions based on patterns she saw in her head. Sometimes she wondered if the burden would have been easier to bear if they knew her true age. How long do we have to implement this strategy? Commander Torres asked. Maya checked the latest intelligence reports. The alien advance force will reach New Geneva in 72 hours. Our attack groups need to be in position within 60 hours to achieve optimal effect. As the commanders began discussing implementation details, Maya retreated to her workstation and continued refining the operational parameters. Every calculation had to be perfect. Every timing sequence had to account for the unpredictable nature of space combat. She thought about her classmates at the Lunar Academy, probably worried about upcoming exams and social events. Maya envied their normal teenage concerns, but she also understood that her unique perspective was humanity's greatest asset in this war. The aliens had superior technology and centuries of military experience, but they had never faced an enemy like humans, adaptive, unpredictable, and willing to gamble everything on strategies that seemed impossible. In 72 hours, Maya would either prove that human ingenuity could overcome any technological disadvantage, or she would be responsible for humanity's greatest military disaster. As she worked through the final tactical calculations, Maya reminded herself that the enemy saw only what they expected. To see a primitive species fighting desperately for survival, they had no idea they were facing a strategic, mind that treated interstellar warfare like the ultimate puzzle. Captain Zexhai observed the tactical display with satisfaction as his massive fleet approached the human supply depot at New Geneva. Intelligence reports confirmed heavy defensive preparations around the facility, exactly as his strategists had predicted. Energy signatures suggest full operational status, reported Lieutenant Vorth. Human defensive platforms are online, and we detect significant ship movements in the inner system. Excellent, Zexhai clicked his mandibles approvingly. Deploy Siege Formation Alpha. We will systematically eliminate their defensive capabilities before moving to capture the facility intact. The alien fleet spread into their predetermined attack pattern, massive dreadnoughts taking position for prolonged bombardment, while support vessels moved to intercept any human reinforcements. It was a textbook operation, executed with the precision that had made the Confederation military dominant across a dozen systems. Meanwhile, Maya watched the alien deployment from the hidden command post on Luna, her screens displaying real-time intelligence from stealth probes positioned throughout the Centauri system. They're committing everything to the siege. Just as predicted, she reported to Admiral Harrison. No reserve forces held back, no contingency deployments. They're so confident in their tactical superiority that they're not even considering alternative scenarios. Admiral Harrison nodded grimly. And our attack groups? Maya checked the status indicators scattered across multiple systems. Wolfpack Alpha is in position near their primary supply convoy in the Tau Ceti system. Bravo and Charlie groups have reached their targets in the Ross 128 corridor. All teams report ready for simultaneous strikes. The genius of Maya's strategy was its coordination across impossible distances. While the aliens focused their attention on New Geneva, human strike forces had been positioning themselves near critical supply lines throughout their extended logistics network. Initiate Phase 1, Admiral Harrison ordered. Maya's fingers flew through the holographic controls, sending encrypted activation signals to attack groups spread across 4-star systems. On her tactical display, dozens of small human vessels began moving toward their targets simultaneously. In the Tau Ceti system, Commander Sarah Chen led Wolfpack Alpha in a lightning assault on the alien supply convoy that was supposed to provide ammunition and fuel for the New Geneva siege. The human ships emerged from the asteroid field like hunting wolves, their weapons already locked on target. All ships, engage at will, Chen commanded. Hit hard and disappear before they can coordinate a response. The aliens were caught completely off guard. Their convoy escorts were configured for protection against single large attackers, not swarms of small, highly maneuverable vessels that struck from multiple directions simultaneously. Within minutes, 3 massive supply ships were destroyed and 2 more were critically damaged. The human attack group vanished back into the asteroid field before the alien escorts could even identify how many ships had attacked them. Similar scenes played out across the alien logistics network as Maya's coordinated. Strikes hit supply depots, fuel refineries, and communication relays. Each attack was perfectly timed to create maximum disruption while avoiding prolonged engagement with superior alien forces. Back at New Geneva, Captain Zexhai received the first damage reports with disbelief. Simultaneous attacks on 7 different targets? He demanded. How is this possible? Lieutenant Vorth's skin had shifted to a worried orange color. Sir, the humans appear to have divided their forces into small attack groups and struck our supply network while we were focused on this operation. Zexhai studied the incoming reports, his strategic training warring with the evidence before him. This makes no tactical sense. They're sacrificing their main defensive position to conduct nuisance raids on our logistics. No competent commander would make such a trade. Perhaps their strategic leadership is more desperate than we anticipated, Vorth suggested. The alien captain made a decision that would have catastrophic consequences. Instead of reconsidering his assault on New Geneva, he decided to accelerate it. Increase bombardment intensity. We will capture this facility quickly and then deal with their scattered forces. Maya watched the alien response with grim satisfaction. They're doing exactly what I hoped they would. Instead of reassessing their strategy, they're doubling down on their original plan. Phase 2? Admiral Harrison asked. Not yet. Let them commit fully to the siege. The more resources they invest in attacking an empty facility, the better our position becomes. The evacuation of New Geneva had been a masterpiece of deception. Over the course of 3 weeks, Maya had orchestrated the gradual withdrawal of all personnel and critical supplies under the guise of routine rotations and maintenance schedules. Automated systems maintained the appearance of normal operations, while the facility slowly became an elaborate trap. As the alien bombardment intensified, Maya initiated the final phase of her deception. Hidden transmitters began broadcasting fake distress signals and emergency communications, creating the illusion of a desperate defense. "Mayday, Mayday, this is New Geneva Control," transmitted one of Maya's pre-recorded messages. "We are taking heavy casualties and requesting immediate reinforcement." "Repeat, we need backup now." The fake communications convinced Captain Zexhai that his assault was succeeding. He committed his reserve forces to the final attack, leaving his scattered supply lines completely vulnerable. "Now," Maya said quietly. Phase 2 of her strategy unfolded with devastating precision. While the aliens focused on capturing New Geneva, Maya's attack group struck their now undefended supply bases and manufacturing facilities. The same unpredictable tactics that had worked in Phase 1 were applied on a larger scale. Human forces hit alien shipyards under construction, destroyed fuel processing stations, and captured an entire ammunition depot by boarding it, while its defenders were deployed elsewhere. "Sir," Lieutenant Vorth reported to Captain Zexhai with barely concealed panic, "we're receiving reports of major losses throughout our supply network. The humans have somehow coordinated attacks across 6 different star systems." Zexhai finally began to understand the scope of the trap he had walked into. "Status of New Geneva. Our assault teams have reached the facility's outer perimeter. Resistance is lighter than expected. Because there was no real resistance to offer, Maya's deception was about to be revealed in the most humiliating way possible. The alien boarding teams that entered New Geneva found automated defense systems and empty corridors. The entire facility had been evacuated weeks earlier. They were capturing a ghost station while their real military assets were being destroyed across multiple systems. Maya allowed herself a small smile as she watched the alien confusion unfold on her tactical displays. "Admiral, I think it's time to reveal our hand." Admiral Harrison activated the general communication channel. "This is Admiral Harrison of Earth Defense Command. Captain Zexhai, I believe you're looking for our supply depot. Unfortunately, you've just spent 3 days and considerable resources attacking an empty building." The silence from the alien fleet was deafening. Maya took control of the communication system. When she spoke, her young voice carried across space to the alien fleet that had been so thoroughly outmaneuvered. "Captain Zexhai, this is the strategic coordinator you've been trying to identify, the one your intelligence reports call the Kid. I thought you should know that while you've been playing with an empty space station, we've destroyed approximately 40% of your extended supply network." The psychological impact of Maya's revelation was devastating. The aliens had been outmaneuvered not by experienced military commanders, but by someone young enough that their own culture would consider her a child. "You have 2 choices," Maya continued. "Withdraw your forces and attempt to rebuild your supply network, or continue your assault on an empty facility while we destroy the rest of your logistics infrastructure." Captain Zexhai stared at his tactical displays, realizing that everything he thought he knew about human military capabilities was wrong. They hadn't just been lucky or desperate. They had been systematically planning this humiliation for weeks. The humans had proven something terrifying. That experience and technology meant nothing against an enemy that refused to fight by the rules. The news of the New Geneva victory spread through human space like wildfire. Maya watched the celebration broadcasts from her quarters, feeling oddly disconnected from the jubilation she had helped create. On screen after screen, military analysts praised the brilliant strategic mind that had outmaneuvered the aliens, while politicians claimed credit for supporting innovative tactical thinking. None of them knew they were celebrating the work of a 16-year-old girl who just wanted to go home. Admiral Harrison found her, sitting on the floor of her cramped room, surrounded by holographic displays showing the aftermath of their victory. The alien fleet had retreated from New Geneva in disarray, their supply network in ruins and their confidence shattered. "The Senate Defense Committee wants to meet with our strategic coordinator," he said carefully. "They're demanding to know who's been making these tactical decisions." Maya didn't look up from her analysis of alien retreat patterns. "Tell them it's classified. Or better yet, tell them it's a joint committee of experts. Politicians love committees. Harrison sat down beside her, a gesture that would have been unthinkable with any other military advisor. Maya, what you accomplished at New Geneva was unprecedented. You didn't just win a battle, you fundamentally changed how this war will be fought. The aliens will adapt, Maya replied, manipulating data streams with practiced efficiency. They always do. They'll analyze what we did, modify their tactics, and try again. The next engagement will be harder. She was right, of course. Intelligence reports already showed increased alien security around their supply lines and changes in fleet deployment patterns. Their enemy was learning from their humiliation. Dr. Reeves wants to see you, Harrison said. She's concerned about the psychological pressure you're under. Maya finally looked at him, her dark eyes reflecting exhaustion that seemed far too old for her face. Admiral, I appreciate the concern, but I can't afford therapy sessions right now. The aliens are regrouping, and I need to understand their new tactical patterns before they launch their next offensive. What Harrison couldn't tell Maya was that Dr. Reeves' concerns went far beyond stress management. The psychological evaluation reports painted a troubling picture of a brilliant teenager carrying impossible responsibilities with no support network beyond a handful of military officers who treated her like a strategic computer. You know, before the war started, I wanted to be an engineer, Maya said suddenly. I was going to design habitat systems for the outer colonies, help humans build homes among the stars. She gestured to the tactical displays surrounding them. Now I spend my days figuring out how to kill our enemies more efficiently. Harrison heard the pain in her voice and realized how little they had done to protect Maya's emotional well-being while depending on her intellectual gifts. When this war is over, if it's ever over, Maya interrupted. Admiral, the aliens have entire worlds devoted to military production. They have centuries of combat experience and technology we can barely understand. The only reason we've survived this long is that they underestimate us. She paused, studying a projection of alien fleet movements. But they're learning. Each engagement teaches them more about how humans think and fight. The weight of her words settled over Harrison like a cold blanket. Maya was right, the human victories had come from exploiting alien assumptions and tactical rigidity, but those advantages would diminish as their enemy adapted. There's something else, Harrison said reluctantly. Intelligence has detected massive alien construction projects in their core systems. They're building something big. Maya's attention snapped to the new data as Harrison uploaded classified reports to her workstation. The information painted a terrifying picture. Industrial facilities on a scale that dwarfed anything humanity had ever attempted. They're not just adapting tactically, Maya realized as she analyzed the construction data. They're preparing for a war of extinction. These facilities could produce enough ships to overwhelm every human colony simultaneously. The implications were staggering. If the aliens were building forces large enough to attack every human system at once, no amount of tactical brilliance would save humanity. How long do we have? Harrison asked. Maya ran calculations through the command center's most advanced computers, cross-referencing construction timelines with known alien industrial capabilities. The results made her stomach drop. 8 months, maybe 10 if we can disrupt their supply chains again. She looked up at Harrison with an expression that was part fear, part determination. Admiral, we can't win a conventional war against those numbers. We need to change the rules of the game entirely. Over the following weeks, Maya threw herself into developing new strategies with an intensity that worried everyone around her. She slept irregularly, ate only when reminded, and spent every waking moment analyzing alien capabilities and human resources. Dr. Reeves finally cornered her in the mess hall during one of her rare meal breaks. Maya, I need to talk to you about the psychological evaluations. Maya continued eating while reading tactical reports on her tablet. Doctor, I appreciate the concern, but I don't have time for... The evaluations aren't optional, Dr. Reeves interrupted firmly. Admiral's orders. Maya sighed and put down her tablet. Fine, what do you want to know? Dr. Reeves studied the teenager across from her, noting the dark circles under her eyes and the way her hands trembled slightly from exhaustion. How are you coping with the responsibility? I cope by doing my job, Maya replied. Every day I don't find a solution is another day closer to human extinction. That's exactly what I'm worried about, Dr. Reeves said gently. Maya, no one person should carry this kind of burden. The decisions you're making affect millions of lives, and you're barely old enough to drive. Maya's laugh held no humor. Dr. Age is irrelevant. Either I can see patterns that others miss, or I can't. Either my strategies work or they don't. The aliens don't care how old I am when they're killing human civilians. Dr. Reeves leaned forward. But I care about what this is doing to you. Maya, you're brilliant and brave, but you're also a child who's been forced to grow up too fast. When this war is over, I'll either be dead or responsible for the survival of human civilization, Maya interrupted. There's no going back to normal teenage life after that. The conversation continued for an hour, with Dr. Reeves trying to provide emotional support to someone who had learned to suppress normal human needs in service of impossible responsibilities. Later that night, Maya sat in her quarters staring at the tactical projections that showed humanity's probable extinction timeline. The alien construction projects would be complete in 8 months. After that, no amount of tactical brilliance would matter against overwhelming numerical superiority. She thought about her parents, living in a refugee camp somewhere in the outer colonies. They thought she was attending advanced classes at the Lunar Academy. They had no idea their daughter was humanity's last hope against an alien species that had decided humans were too dangerous to be allowed to exist. Maya pulled up a personal message interface, intending to send her parents a brief update about her fictional academic progress. Instead, she found herself staring at a blank screen, unable to think of anything to say that wasn't a lie. Finally, she typed a simple message. I love you both. I'm working on something important, and I hope you'll understand when it's finished. As she prepared the message for transmission, Maya realized that Dr. Reeves was right about one thing. She was just a teenager trying to save the world, but she was also the only person who could see the patterns that might make salvation possible. In 8 months, she would either prove that human ingenuity could overcome any odds, or she would fail and watch her species disappear from the galaxy. The weight of that responsibility would have crushed most adults. Maya Chen carried it with the quiet determination of someone who had no choice but to succeed. Maya stared at the intelligence reports that had arrived during the night shift, her heart sinking as she processed the implications. The alien construction projects weren't just building warships, they were creating something far worse. Admiral Harrison, please report to Strategic Operations immediately, she announced through the command center's communication system. Within minutes, Harrison arrived to find Maya standing before a holographic display that showed detailed scans of the alien construction facilities. What am I looking at? He asked. Maya manipulated the display, highlighting specific structures within the massive orbital complexes. Planet killers. The aliens aren't just preparing to defeat humanity, they're building weapons capable of sterilizing entire worlds. The revelation hit Harrison like a physical blow. Are you certain? The energy requirements and structural configurations match theoretical models for stellar manipulation weapons, Maya explained, her voice clinical despite the horror of what she was describing. They can destabilize a star's core and cause it to go supernova. Every human colony, including Earth, could be destroyed without the aliens ever engaging our fleets directly. Harrison slumped into a nearby chair, overwhelmed by the scope of the threat. How long before these weapons are operational? 6 months for the first one. They'll have enough to target every major human system within 8 months. Maya paused, studying additional data streams. Admiral, conventional warfare is now completely irrelevant. We can't fight weapons that can destroy stars. The command center fell silent except for the hum of electronic systems. Harrison found himself staring at a tactical situation that had no military solution. What do you recommend? He asked finally. Maya had been considering this question for hours, running through scenarios that all seemed to lead to human extinction. Only one possibility offered even a theoretical chance of survival. We need allies, she said. The Confederation of Allied Worlds isn't just fighting humanity. According to our intelligence, they've been expanding aggressively across multiple sectors. There have to be other species that are threatened by their ambitions. Harrison nodded slowly. The diplomatic corps has tried to establish contact with non-Confederation species, but most of them won't even acknowledge our existence. They see this as a private war between humans and the Confederation. Maya called up stellar maps showing the current political situation across known space. Red areas indicated Confederation territory, blue showed human space, and scattered yellow zones marked independent species and smaller alliances. What if we could prove that the Confederation is planning to use stellar destruction weapons against anyone who opposes them? Maya asked. Species that think they're safe because they're not currently at war might reconsider their neutrality. The idea was audacious. Convince other species to join a war against the most powerful military alliance in known space, based on the word of a species they barely acknowledged as intelligent. It would require us to get close enough to their construction facilities to gather proof, Harrison observed. That's essentially a suicide mission. Maya had already been working on this problem. Not necessarily. We don't need to physically infiltrate their facilities. We need to steal their technical specifications and construction schedules, then make sure that information reaches every independent species in the galaxy. She expanded the tactical display to show potential infiltration routes through alien space. A small stealth ship could penetrate their outer security perimeter and access their communication networks. The trick would be getting out alive with the data. Harrison studied the proposed mission parameters with growing alarm. You're talking about the deepest penetration into enemy territory we've ever attempted. The crew would be volunteers on a one-way mission. Not necessarily, Maya replied, highlighting specific points on the infiltration route. If we time the mission to coincide with a major alien fleet movement, we could use the distraction to mask our approach and withdrawal. What she didn't tell Harrison was that she had been developing this strategy for weeks, knowing that eventually humanity would face a threat that couldn't be defeated through tactical brilliance alone. There's another problem, Harrison said. Even if we succeed in gathering this intelligence, most species won't trust information provided by humans. We're seen as a young, aggressive species with a tendency toward deception. Maya smiled for the first time in days. That's why we're not going to be the ones delivering the information. Over the following days, Maya worked with Earth's finest cryptographers and intelligence specialists to develop what she called Operation Revelation. The plan was breathtakingly complex. Steal alien construction data, modify it to appear as if it came from Confederation defectors, and distribute it through channels that would make it seem like an internal intelligence leak. The key was making other species believe they had discovered the threat themselves, rather than being warned by humans. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's chief diplomatic advisor, reviewed Maya's proposal with barely concealed amazement. This is either brilliant or completely insane. You're proposing to manipulate the intelligence networks of dozens of different species simultaneously. The alternative is watching our star go supernova in 6 months, Maya replied. Doctor, we're past the point where conventional diplomacy can save us. We need to create a situation where other species have no choice but to recognize the Confederation as an existential threat. The infiltration mission launched 3 weeks later, crewed by volunteers from Earth's elite special operations forces. Maya monitored their progress from the Lunar Command Center, watching as the tiny stealth ship penetrated deeper into alien space than any human vessel had ever traveled. Captain Rodriguez, the mission commander, reported in whispered communications as they approached the alien construction facilities. Strategic Command, we have visual confirmation of the target. These things are even bigger than our estimates suggested. The team successfully penetrated the alien communication networks and began downloading construction specifications, weapons capabilities, and targeting schedules. What they found was even worse than Maya had predicted. They're not just building star killers, Rodriguez reported. They have plans for biological weapons designed to target specific genetic markers. They're preparing to sterilize worlds inhabited by any species that shows resistance to Confederation authority. Maya felt a cold certainty settle in her stomach. This wasn't just a war for territory or resources. The Confederation had decided that diversity of intelligent life was a threat to galactic stability. Mission accomplished, Rodriguez reported as his team completed the data extraction. Beginning withdrawal sequence. The next phase of Operation Revelation unfolded. Across dozens of star systems as Maya's modified, intelligence packages appeared in the databases of independent species throughout the galaxy. The leaked documents suggested that the Confederation was preparing to eliminate any civilization that might eventually challenge their authority. The response was immediate, and dramatic species that had remained neutral suddenly found themselves reconsidering their positions as they realized the Confederation's ultimate plans included their elimination. Emergency sessions were called by governments across the Galaxy-as leaders grappled with evidence that their peaceful coexistence with the Confederation was an illusion. Admiral Harrison monitored the diplomatic responses with growing hope. We're receiving communication requests from the hegemony of Tau Ceti, the Centauri Federation, and even the Crystalline Collective. They want to discuss mutual concerns regarding Confederation military activities. Maya allowed herself a moment of satisfaction, but she knew this was only the beginning. Admiral, getting other species to acknowledge the threat is just the first step. Now we have to convince them to actually fight. She was right. The galaxy's independent species faced the same problem that had nearly doomed humanity. Individually, they were no match for Confederation military power. But together, they might represent enough combined strength to challenge the aliens' ambitions. Maya began working on her most ambitious strategy yet, coordinating the military capabilities of species that had never worked together, spoke different languages, and had conflicting political interests. She was about to attempt something that had never been successfully accomplished in galactic history: forge a multi-species alliance capable of standing against the most powerful empire known space had ever seen. The Boar, teenager who had started this war as humanity's secret weapon, was about to become the coordinator of the galaxy's last hope for survival. The diplomatic summit on neutral Kepler Station was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Representatives from 17 different species gathered in an unprecedented meeting, each delegation bringing their own fears about Confederation expansion and the newly revealed stellar destruction weapons. Maya watched the proceedings through encrypted video feeds from her command post on Luna, frustrated by her inability to participate directly. At 16, she was considered too young to represent humanity in formal diplomatic negotiations. Despite being the architect of the intelligence operation that had made this summit possible, Ambassador Chen Wei, Maya's uncle and Earth's chief diplomat, presented the human position to the assembled delegates. His carefully worded speeches avoided mentioning that humanity's strategic successes had been masterminded by his teenage niece. The evidence before us demonstrates that the Confederation views all independent civilizations as eventual threats to be eliminated, Ambassador Chen announced to the assembly. They have the means and the will to destroy entire star systems. Our choice is simple: stand together or face extinction separately. The response from other delegations was mixed. The Tau Ceti hegemony, led by the insectoid Clixarn, expressed cautious interest in cooperation. The crystalline beings from the Vega Collective communicated their concerns through harmonic frequencies that required translation software to understand. But it was the representative from the Draconian Empire who voiced the concern that threatened to derail the entire summit. Humans, hissed Ambassador Scythek through his translation device. You ask us to trust a species that has existed in space for mere centuries. Your military tactics are unpredictable, and your strategic thinking is chaotic. How do we know you will not become a threat equal to the Confederation if we help you survive? Maya, monitoring the diplomatic feed, felt her frustration building. The delegates were focusing on political mistrust while the Confederation continued, building weapons capable of sterilizing worlds. Admiral Harrison, she said, through the command center's communication system, I need to address the summit directly. Harrison looked up from his own monitoring station with alarm. Maya, diplomatic protocol doesn't allow for— Diplomatic protocol is going to get us all killed, Maya interrupted. These species are arguing about trust while we have 6 months before the first Starkiller weapon becomes operational. They need to understand what we're really facing. Against his better judgment, Harrison opened a secure communication channel to Kepler Station. Ambassador Chen, Strategic Operations, has an urgent briefing for the summit. Maya's image appeared on the main display screen in the diplomatic chamber, causing a stir among delegates who had never seen the mysterious strategic coordinator they had heard about in intelligence reports. Honorable delegates, Maya began, her young voice carrying across the chamber with surprising authority. I am the strategic coordinator responsible for humanity's military operations against the Confederation. I need to share information that changes everything we know about this conflict. She activated her holographic displays, showing the complete alien construction timeline and weapons capabilities. The Confederation isn't just building star killers. They're constructing mobile platforms capable of destroying entire systems while remaining undetectable. Until the moment of attack, the chamber fell, silent as delegates absorbed the implications of Maya's revelations. Furthermore, Maya continued, their targeting priorities are based on a species' potential for technological development, not current military capabilities. The Crystalline Collective is third on their elimination list, despite never having engaged in warfare. The Draconian Empire is fifth. Ambassador Scythek's scaled features shifted in what Maya recognized as surprise. How could you know this information? Maya displayed intercepted Confederation communications, carefully edited to protect the source of the intelligence. Because I've been studying their strategic planning for 3 years. The Confederation doesn't see this as a war between equals. They see it as pest control. The brutal honesty of Maya's assessment cut through the diplomatic niceties that had been slowing negotiations. Species that had been hesitant to commit to an alliance suddenly realized they were already targets, whether they fought or not. What do you propose? Asked the harmonic representative of the Vega Collective. Maya had been preparing for this moment for weeks. Complete military integration under unified command, shared technology development, coordinated industrial production, and most importantly, joint operations against Confederation facilities before their weapons become operational. The audacity of her proposal stunned the assembled delegates. Maya was suggesting the creation of an interstellar alliance that would fundamentally reshape galactic politics. You're asking species with centuries of cultural differences to merge their military forces, observed the Klixarn delegate. This is unprecedented. So is the threat we're facing, Maya replied. Honorable delegates, the Confederation has made this choice for us. We can either work together as equals, or we can be eliminated as individuals. Over the following days, Maya found herself coordinating not just military strategies, but the complex negotiations required to merge the military capabilities of vastly different civilizations. Each species brought unique advantages: draconian shipbuilding expertise, crystalline energy manipulation technology, Klixarn swarm tactics, and human strategic unpredictability. The breakthrough came when Maya proposed a tactical framework that played to each species' strengths while compensating for their individual weaknesses. The Confederation expects us to fight like they do, Maya explained to the Joint Military Planning Committee. Large fleets, traditional formations, predictable strategies. Instead, we're going to fight like a pack hunt. She displayed her tactical concept: small, mixed-species strike forces that combined different technological advantages to create capabilities that no single civilization could achieve alone. Draconian armor and weapon systems, crystalline energy shields, Klixarn numerical coordination, and human strategic adaptation, Maya outlined. The Confederation has never faced an enemy that combined these capabilities. Admiral Harrison watched with amazement as Maya coordinated military planning between species that had never successfully cooperated on anything. Her ability to see patterns extended beyond human tactical thinking, to encompass the strategic traditions of multiple civilizations. There's something else we need to consider, Maya said during one planning session. The psychological impact of our alliance. The Confederation has maintained power by keeping other species isolated and suspicious of each other. Our cooperation proves their fundamental assumptions are wrong. The alliance came together with unprecedented speed, driven by the urgency of the Confederation's construction timeline. Within 6 weeks, the first joint operations were underway, targeting Confederation supply lines and construction facilities with coordinated strikes that combined the best elements of multiple military traditions. Captain HFY, now commanding Confederation defensive forces, watched the intelligence reports with growing concern. The humans had somehow convinced other species to join their fight, and their combined tactics were unlike anything in Confederation military experience. Sir, Lieutenant Vorth reported, we're tracking simultaneous attacks on 7 different facilities. The attackers are using mixed species formations we've never encountered before. HFY studied the tactical displays, realizing that everything the Confederation thought they knew about galactic warfare was being systematically proven wrong by an alliance that shouldn't have been possible. Who is coordinating these operations? He demanded. Intelligence suggests the same individual who orchestrated the New Geneva deception, Vorth replied. The one they call the Kid. Back on Luna, Maya monitored the success of the joint operations with quiet satisfaction. The alliance was working better than she had dared to hope, with species learning to complement each other's strengths in ways that multiplied their combined effectiveness. But she also knew this was only the beginning. The real test would come when they attempted to assault the Confederation's core systems and prevent the Starkiller weapons from becoming operational. Maya Chen, the teenager who had started as humanity's secret weapon, had become the strategic coordinator of an alliance that represented the galaxy's first real hope for lasting peace. The question now was whether her unconventional thinking could overcome technology designed to destroy stars themselves. The final assault on the Confederation's core systems began at dawn on a Tuesday, though time had little meaning in the depths of space where Maya Chen watched her greatest gamble unfold. From her command station on Luna, she coordinated an attack force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. A combined fleet of 17 species, each contributing their unique capabilities to a strategy that defied every convention of interstellar warfare. "All strike groups report ready," Admiral Harrison announced from the tactical center. "Alliance Command, you have operational control." Maya took a deep breath, knowing that the next few hours would determine whether her alliance could prevent the destruction of entire star systems. The Confederation's Starkiller weapons were 72 hours from operational status. This was humanity's and the galaxy's last chance. "Execute Operation Starfall," Maya commanded, across 12 star systems. The coordinated assault began with precision. That would have been impossible without months of joint training and Maya's strategic framework that treated each species' military traditions as instruments in a galactic orchestra. In the Rigel system, Draconian heavy cruisers provided covering fire while human stealth ships infiltrated Confederation shipyards. Crystalline collective vessels manipulated energy fields to create defensive barriers around Clixarn swarm fighters as they overwhelmed enemy point defenses. Maya had learned that the secret to commanding multiple species wasn't forcing them to abandon their natural tactics, but rather finding ways to make those different approaches complement each other. Rigel Strike Force reports successful penetration of Target Alpha, came the first status update. Beginning demolition sequence on construction facility. But Maya's attention was focused on the most critical target, the primary Starkiller weapon in the Confederation's home system. This facility was the most heavily defended location in known space, protected by the largest concentration of military force the galaxy had ever assembled. Phoenix Squadron. "Report status," Maya requested. "Phoenix Leader here," replied Captain Rodriguez, the same special operations officer who had led the original intelligence infiltration. "We're approaching the outer defense perimeter. Confederation fleet disposition matches your predictions exactly." Maya smiled grimly. After 3 years of studying alien tactical patterns, she had learned to anticipate their responses with uncanny accuracy. The Confederation commanders were positioning their forces to protect against conventional assault strategies, leaving vulnerabilities that Maya intended to exploit. "Implementing Maneuver 7, she announced to the Phoenix Squadron. "Commanders, what happened next would be analyzed by military strategists for generations." Instead of attacking the Starkiller facility directly, Maya's forces appeared to retreat after a brief skirmish with the outer defenses. The Confederation fleet moved to pursue, believing they were witnessing the collapse of the Alliance's desperate assault. In reality, Maya had orchestrated the most complex deception of the war. While the Confederation fleet chased phantom targets, small infiltration teams from multiple species had penetrated the facility's defenses, using a combination of human stealth technology, crystalline phase shifting, and draconian armor systems. "All teams in position," reported the infiltration coordinator, beginning simultaneous strikes on primary targets. Captain Zexhai, now commanding the home system's defenses, realized too late that he had been outmaneuvered again. The retreat was a deception. All units returned to facility defense immediately. But the damage was already done. Maya's infiltration teams had not only destroyed the Starkiller weapon, but had also gathered complete technical specifications for the Confederation's entire stellar destruction program. "Admiral Harrison," Maya announced calmly, "please transmit the following message on all Confederation military frequencies." She activated the main communication array, her young voice carrying across space to every Confederation ship and facility. "This is Strategic Coordinator Chen of the Galactic Defense Alliance. We have successfully destroyed your Starkiller weapons and obtained complete documentation of your stellar destruction program. This information has been transmitted to every independent civilization in known space." The psychological impact of Maya's announcement was devastating. The Confederation had built their entire expansion strategy on the assumption that other species would remain divided and suspicious of each other. The existence of a successful multi-species alliance shattered their fundamental understanding of galactic politics. Furthermore, Maya continued, "Your military leadership should be aware that this alliance now includes 43 different species, with more joining every day. Your expansion has ended." In the months that followed, the Confederation's political structure began to collapse as member species questioned the wisdom of leaders who had provoked a galaxy-wide alliance. Some systems declared independence while others negotiated separate peace agreements with the new Galactic Defense Alliance. The war that had threatened to end in human extinction instead became the catalyst for the galaxy's first successful multi-species government, with Maya's strategic principles forming the foundation of interstellar cooperation. But the most significant change was personal. Maya Chen, who had spent 3 years hiding her age and identity, finally stood before the Galactic Assembly as herself, a 17-year-old girl who had prevented the destruction of entire civilizations. "Delegates of the Alliance," she addressed the assembled representatives, "when this war began, your species saw humans as young, unpredictable, and dangerous. You were right about all 3 characteristics, but you failed to understand that these traits could be advantages when facing an enemy that valued predictability above all else." The chamber listened in respectful silence as Maya outlined her vision for the Alliance's future. "We succeeded not because any one species was superior, but because we learned to combine our different strengths into something greater than the sum of our parts." The Confederation fell because they tried to impose uniformity on a galaxy that thrives on diversity. Ambassador Sci-Fi of the Draconian Empire, who had once questioned human reliability, stood to address the assembly. "Honorable Coordinator Chen," he said formally, "my species has existed in space for over 2,000 years. In all that time, we have never encountered a strategic mind comparable to yours. You have not only saved our civilizations, you have shown us a new way to think about cooperation and conflict." The formal conclusion of hostilities came 6 months later, when the last Confederation holdout systems agreed to join the Alliance, rather than face the combined military power of 47 unified species. Maya, now 18, found herself appointed as the Alliance's first strategic coordinator, responsible for maintaining the peace she had helped create. But she also finally had time for personal pursuits she had abandoned during the war. She enrolled in the Galactic Engineering Academy, pursuing her original dream of designing habitat systems for the outer colonies. Her fellow students treated her with a mixture of awe and normalcy that she found refreshingly balanced. Dr. Reeves, who had worried about Maya's psychological well-being throughout the war, found her in the Academy's workshop one evening, working on a design for a multi-species research station. "How are you adjusting to peacetime?" the doctor asked. Maya looked up from her engineering displays, her expression more relaxed than Dr. Reeves had ever seen it. "It's strange. For 3 years I woke up every day knowing that millions of lives depended on my decisions. Now I wake up wondering whether my habitat design will have enough recreational space for Clixarn hive clusters." She paused, considering her words carefully. "Doctor, I know you were concerned about what the war did to my development, but I think I learned something important. Age isn't what makes someone capable of leadership. It's the willingness to see problems from new perspectives and the courage to try solutions that others think are impossible." Dr. Reeves smiled, recognizing the wisdom in Maya's words. "And now? Now I get to help build the galaxy I fought to save," Maya replied. "And I think that's exactly what I was meant to do." The legend of the teenage strategist who ended the Galactic War spread throughout known space, inspiring a new generation of young minds to believe that age was no barrier to making a difference. Military academies throughout the Alliance began teaching Chen doctrine, emphasizing adaptability and unconventional thinking over traditional tactical approaches, but Maya herself remained focused on the future, working to build the peaceful, cooperative galaxy that her strategies had made possible. The girl who had been forced to grow up too quickly during humanity's darkest hour had become the woman who would help guide the galaxy toward its brightest future. When historians wrote about the Galactic War, they would remember it as the conflict that transformed a divided galaxy into a united alliance. They would study Maya Chen's tactics and strategies, analyzing her unconventional approaches to seemingly impossible problems. But Maya's greatest victory wasn't military. It was proving that diversity of thought, cooperation between different perspectives, and the courage to challenge conventional wisdom could overcome any obstacle. The teenager who had started the war as humanity's secret weapon had become the galaxy's greatest hope for lasting peace, and her legend would inspire countless others to believe that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is a young mind that refuses to accept that something is impossible.